Live from the Talking Joe studios,
it's Talking Joe with Chief and Chris. Hey, it's me, Chiefy Two Shoes, joined by my buddy
Diagnostic 80, Chris McLeod from the Full Force podcast, and this one, how's it going, my man?
It is going very well, my friend, very well, because the alternative it's not going well.
That's true.
Yeah, so yeah. I choose the former.
Good.
What have you been up to?
Same's, really, just lots of
same
work.
Old boring life,
old,
just working
away and editing at things, and I don't know, it's a dog's life.
Yes. I have just received a shipment of comics from the bookbinder. Well, books from the bookbindery. So they have arrived finally. I've been talking about it for a long time. I will post some images up. I got 10 Batman binds. Now this is effectively what I'm doing is I'm taking comics and putting them into my own reading order of choice. You know, you get your trades, your graphic novels, and you know they're effectively the company, your Marvel, your DC Image, whoever it is choosing what to package in that volume you're buying. So here you can play around with the issues a little bit if they sit better in a certain order. And there's quite a large, community out there, forums of people who do comic binding maps, they're called, and you'll say, I want to do a Batman from this year to this year, can you map it out for me? And they'll list all the detective Batman, slip in a few Nightwings, some Catwoman's, Robins, whatever, and they'll some people even go to the point of cutting up individual issues and saying, right, put through the first 3 pages of Batman 600, then the next 4 pages of detective, then put in the next 4 pages of Batman, so they're intersplicing issues. So all I do is I actually take a scalpel to the issues. I cut out any double page ads because they're not necessary. I cut off the back cover unless it's a gatefold splash cover, and then send them all off. And I got back 10 volumes of Batman, which now gives me a full run of 24 volumes from Nightfall, which was 1992, where Bane broke Batman's back.
Nice.
Or perhaps he's wondering why someone would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane.
All the way up to just prior to, or where it ended, and then the new 52 started, because I didn't really collect it after that Batman. So I got a full, I think that was 2011, so I got about a 18-year stretch of Batman comics spread over 24 volumes. And then, of course, I got the 2 volumes of G.I. Joe Real American Hero. One of them collects 201 to 225, and the next one is 226 to 250. So I will need to dig into those at some point. And then I got 8-volume set of the IDW continuity when they relaunched the book. Not the Real American Hero, but with their own continuity. And 8 volumes of that.
Blimey.
Which is pretty much everything they covered. There is, however, some errors with that because they have bound it in the wrong colour cover. And there's a few other little niggles, so I sent off a stern email to the bookbindery in Leeds, and just for my displeasure. But other than that, and there was a few other pieces I got done, but other than that, some Transformers, IDW Transformers stuff. So now I've got a complete 9-volume set of from when More Than Meets the Eye and Robots in Disguise, when those series relaunched. I got a full 9 volume all the way up to the end of Lost Light, etc. I got 9 volumes worth of Transformers, so I need to dig into those.
They're great.
Yeah, so if you had more time, we could do a Transformers IDW read-along podcast, but I don't have the time, you don't have the time, so anyway. Yeah, that's it for me. What I do have, though, I do have a beverage for the show.
Beverage for the show, do-do-do-do-do-do. Beverage for the show, do-do-do-do-do-do. Now I am gonna go, do-do, and drink my beverage for the show.
Now then. Last week, the eagle-eyed, no, not the eagle-eyed at all, the hawk-eared listeners, no, I don't know, what's got good ears? Don't know.
That'll do.
Wait a minute, Marshall Bravestar.
Yeah, I was thinking
Strength
Bravestar.
for the Bear, Eyes of the Wolf. No,
it's
Ears of the Wolf.
Ears of the Wolf, yeah, because it's Eyes of the Hawk, isn't it? Yeah.
Eyes of the Hawk, yeah, so basically...
Ears of the Wolf, Bravestar.
Okay, so... I like
Strength of a bear, speed of a...
2020 or 30-30. Who's the horse dude?
30-30.
30-30. Mad Dog 2020, that was a drink you used to drink when you were like 16, getting smashed. But anyway, The the wolf-eared listeners out there will remember from last episode, I believe Mr. Chris Simo, his beverage for the show was a kombucha.
Oh, right, it was a kombucha, yes, it was.
Kombucha, you're thinking of Chad.
I am.
So he had a kombucha, and I was very confused by the whole kombucha thing. I never heard of it, and you were aware of it, obviously. Is it an American thing? Not sure. But anyway,
basically, I think, yeah.
Okay, I was out in the local supermarket, which will remain nameless, Sainsbury's, and I saw on the shelf bootleg booch ginger alcoholic kombucha.
Wow.
3.5% alcohol by volume. It's an organic,
easy,
batch brewed bootleg booch. So I thought, wait a minute, I'm going to sample my first ever kombucha here. So I've got it here in front of me. I don't know what it's supposed to taste like. It says ginger. Is it going to be sparkling or still? I've got no idea. But I've already got it open. And let's have a little glug on this one. Holy mackerel.
Yeah?
That could be the most disgusting thing I have ever drunk. What the heck? What is this thing?
It's awful, isn't it?
It's like I've just drank liquid flavour of wet dog hair. Oh my goodness.
I'm kind of like, I feel justified right now that I'm not the only person that seems to kind of really despise it.
I've got a taste in my mouth. Now, I had a separate beverage for the show ready, and then I saw this kombucha and I thought, right, well, that's superseding this, and I'll save that one for next week. But now I'm actually going to open my second one just to wash the taste out of this. This is a Munsbit apple, pear, and ginger oat smoothie from IKEA.
Blimey.
So I'm just going to down this just to get that. Oh my God, that's so.
This has turned into an ASMR podcast.
That's done, right? That was nice. That was well good. Apple, pear, and ginger oat smoothie, Munsbit from IKEA. Go buy one. Do not buy kombucha. What have you got?
Well, I've got a kombucha. No, I haven't got a kombucha. I have a strawberry natural flavoured Zevia, a 0-calorie soda with no sugar, no artificial sweeteners,
and no taste,
and it's caffeine free. So I'm going to give this a vibe, and guess what? I haven't opened it either, so you get to hear this. Oh, that's a beautiful sound, isn't it?
That's a win.
Right. It smells very yummy. It smells very strawberry. Let's give this a taste. Yeah, it's nice. It's a bit, it's like, it's got that aftertaste, that kind of almost very Diet Coke aftertaste to it. Obviously, it doesn't taste like Coke, but it's a kind of fizzy strawberry kind of soda-y drink, as you'd expect in so that's what I have, a Zevia.
Excellent. Good work. We've established that you've got a nice drink. I had a horrible one. Now I've got a nice drink, although I have downed it, so we're in good spirits. That can only mean one thing.
Well, before we do that, I don't understand why people like kombucha at all. I don't know why my wife likes it so much.
That should be the Inside Chief's mind this week. Goddamn kombucha. But it's not, because we are going Inside Chief's mind. Kombucha! People. One day I'm going to stop just there, and that's it.
One of these days.
I am going to carry on. People, and I'm specifically targeting the sports punditry / commentators of the world for their use of the word unbelievable. Now, it's unbelievable, Jeff! There you go. This first came to light kind of as a thing in the UK. Sports Soccer Saturday in the UK on a Saturday afternoon. We won't go into full details, but one of the presenters, the host, Jeff Stelling was the host. He would go over to reporters who were at all the football grounds around, and he'd ask for updates on the games because you weren't allowed to show pictures of 3 p.m. Premier League games until later in the day, some rights issues. So basically they'd go to the reporters and they'd each give a verbal report because they're live at the game watching it. And the first thing that Chris Kamara, like you mentioned, would say is, "Unbelievable, Jeff." It's unbelievable!
unbelievable, Jeff!
And it wouldn't be that unbelievable. It would never be.
Then he'd go on to say, "Oh, what an unbelievable goal or an unbelievable header!" And this is now quite commonplace in all sports. You know, you get it in American sports quite often when I'm watching NFL. Odell Beckham Jr. has made an unbelievable catch on the sideline, one hand falling out of bounds, or And what I'm thinking is, stop saying it, because it's not unbelievable, because it happened. You watched it with your own eyes. Oh, Odell Beckham's made an unbelievable catch. I don't believe he made that catch. But he did, because it's fact. It happened. So you're saying you don't believe in fact.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, Chief.
Stop using it. It's not unbelievable. It happened. If it's what they should say is he's made a very low probability catch there.
I'm going to use that term throughout this entire episode now, I think, when describing everything that I read.
Excellent. So there you go. Stop using unbelievable, sports people.
Yeah, you.
You're unbelievable.
I want to talk about some comics.
Comic talk, oh, comic talk. Larry Hama writes them, Chief and Chris discuss them, whoa. Comic talk, oh, comic talk. Larry Hama writes them, Chief and Chris discuss them, whoa.
This week we are going to be talking G.I. Joe Real American Hero 101, 102, 103. Now, kind of reading ahead, 101 to up to 106 kind of caps off a few story arcs, and they all kind of close off, which is a nice end point. We don't want to cover 6 issues on one episode. It's going to get bogged down in lengthy episodes.
That would be unbelievable, Jeff.
It's unbelievable, Jeff!
That would be. Something for the listeners out there. How long before Chief gets p***ed off with Chris using unbelievable?
It's already happened.
No. I'll let you off because I like you, but if I don't like you, stop using it. So anyway, we're going to split it up. We're going to do 101 to 103 this week. We're going to do 104 to 106 next week. And then at the end of that episode, we'll rank this arc as a 6-issue arc, but we're just going to split up the discussion into 2 parts. Simple.
Yeah.
So 101, let's look at the covers. 101 here, we've got the October Guard in there. I think this is called the BMP, is it?
The British Nationalist Party.
BMP.
The BIMP.
They're coming towards us, featuring the new October Guard, because of course the last time we saw them, all their members were gunned down except for 2. This is Ron Wagner on the cover. What do you think of this?
It's okay. It's nice. It's I do find with this one that he's very careful in kind of keeping Misha and Gorky in the background before you really get introduced to them. So It's almost very much who are these 2 new ones?
Yep. And that top left, is that new, where the Marvel Comics logo and then you've got a Cobra Commander kind of in the box? I know they used to do that with some superhero comics, Captain America or Thor or whatever, but is this new? I can't even remember what 100 or anything it had. In fact, I've got the issues right in front of me. Let's just have a look.
Yeah, have a look at 100. But I don't. It might have been when he came back, and because Cobra Commander's back.
100 just kind of had a generic grunt style figure.
102 has a cute one though, as well, with Snake Eyes and Hawk on it.
Yeah, let's have a look at 102 then. Yeah, that's a nice one. Snake Eyes and Hawk, and then here you've got the October Guard rushing towards us in a firefight. This is Ron Wagner again. And
now you've got Gorky front and centre, but Misha's still in the background. You know about him now. And then you get another one. You get another Cobra Commander on the next one as well.
On 103, and this is Storm Shadow in his urban camo stuff, busting through some glass. At this point, you don't know where he's going, what he's doing, but that's a great cover, and this is Ron Wagner again.
Yeah, another beauty, and I just love it because it's Storm Shadow in that deco. Very cool.
Yep. Scripting all these, obviously, Larry Hama. Mark Bright is penciling all these. I think Randy Emblin is now his preferred inker of choice, so he inks all these. We got Rick Parker on letters, and we got editor Bobby Chase. Just quickly, I want to just quickly jump forward to 102 because just on the first page, I really like that bit where in the bottom left where you have the credits box. Instead of saying scripter Larry Hama, pencilers Mark Bright, it says Larry Hama, squad leader.
Yeah.
Mark Bright, cannoneer. Randy Emblin, forward observer.
Brilliant.
Rick Parker, point man. Bob Shireen, colour bearer. Bobby Chase, platoon leader. And the editor at the time, Tom DeFalco, Top Gun.
Brilliant.
But yes, cool. So we've kind of, across these the 6 issues we're going to cover and the 3 on this particular pod, we've got 3 separate storylines. So we've got the October Guard one, which is kind of front and centre, and this is the Joes are, as they have been in many issues recently, are in an advisory capacity. They're teaming up with the October Guard, who have, as we've mentioned, got 2 new members to go along with Dragonsky and Dana. We've now got Misha and Gorky. Who died? Let's just... Horosho, Colonel Brekov and...
Shrage and Stormavik.
Shrage and Stormavik, yeah, four of those poor sons of is dead. So anyway, they're off to our old favourite stomping ground, Sierra Gordo. And there's like, obviously, always revolutions going on, and they're advising whether it's the revolutionaries or the counter-revolutionaries, but advising them against Cobra's and Destro's forces.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that plays out later on. Then you've got the continuation, which kind of wraps up, I think, in this particular 3 issues. You've got the continuation of the Millville storyline of Cobra's invasion and Spirit and Mutt and what they get up to, which is good stuff. And then you've also got the Snake Eyes piece where Scarlet's in a coma, and Storm Shadow wants to help his friend out of a funk, and at the end of these 3 issues sets him off on some crazy mission. And also there's some other family members of Scarlet's which crop up. So 3 very separate stories, but 3 very... I really like this stuff. 3 very exciting stories that hold up on their own.
Yeah, totally. It's almost quite odd that they're all happening at the same time, because there's no real relation between any of them. But I suppose that does create this thing where you're actually invested in all of the stories that are going on. So it's not kind of random as such as it is just like 3 solid storylines at once. It's quite cool.
That's a really good point. I never actually thought of that these could have just been... We could have just had the October Guard as a solid 3-issue run of stories. Then we could have had the other one as a 3-issue. So I'd never really thought of that, but intermingling them,
What it screams to me like is he's almost like incorporated special missions now that it's finished into the regular run. So
yes,
it's almost like he's running a special mission alongside the main story arc. And I mean, you could imagine that this would probably pace a little more logically if special missions were still going on, to have the October Guard story in that, and then the Mutton Junkyard, Snake Eyes and Scarlet storyline running either side of each other in the regular comic. It might even have been the case, he may have written ahead with some more special missions and it got canned, so he kind of rejigged it by kind of forcing it into this section itself.
Yeah, I full agree there, full agree. Which one do you want to have a crack at first?
Well, let's start with the first issue and the fact that you're starting with Mutt Junkyard and Spirit, so that's probably like a good place to go from. Yeah,
great. Another splash page as a first page, which is now a theme for G.I. Joe in general. Because we left them at issue 100 where they've been shopped out by Uncle Jeff, brainwashed Uncle Jeff. They thought they were going back to a safe haven at his house, and of course it's teeming with vipers.
Yeah, so they get kind of led outside to, be taken away for brainwashing.
Couple of bits here, which on the first couple of pages, I like the bit where Junkyard comes running out, and Mutt's like, "Go on, have a good life, go and chase some cats." He doesn't want to drag in, his best buddy, the dog, because he knows about to go down. And then that's kind of paralleled because at the bottom of the next page, page 3, really nice framed piece here where they're bending down, picking up guns because they've taken out a few vipers. Vipers are coming out of the house. Spirit says, "We make a stand here and take as many of them with us as we can." So he's basically under the assumption that they're actually going to die.
Yeah,
he's imparting on us the actual peril of the situation here.
Yeah.
And before I let you get any words in, the panel above that is one of my favourites, and I'm actually going to go through every single issue up to this point and try and put together a little composition piece of one of my favourite panels that Larry Hama scripts. It's the old Bonk or the Wonk panel where he's got a Joe bashing together 2 Cobra's heads. Gung Ho does a lot of this. I think Roadblock might do one as well.
Roadblock's done a few, yeah.
And now Spirit's in on the act, so I'm going to try and get a compilation together, but I love a good Wonk or a Bonk.
Don't we all? I'm more of a WAP kind of guy, which happens at the top of the page.
yeah, there's a WAP there as well. Yeah.
Get your WAPs out. Anyway, then obviously they get all the vipers that are running out onto the deck of the house or the front porch get absolutely chewed up by rat-a-tat-a-tatting coming from the Hiss 2, which has got that kid in it. I forget his name now. What's his name?
No,
Russ.
I don't think it's a
Russ
kid.
the vet.
It's Russ. He's a veteran, yeah. So
What's funny about him, I say kid because he's drawn very young looking, and he's called Russ the vet. I just find that very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. And Mark Bright draws, he's framed that panel really well because it's kind of sort of silhouetted and dark where those vipers are, getting dished up big time. But his art he's really coming, he's been great from the start, but especially the explosions and
lovely
scenes of vehicles, firing their ordnance and stuff. He's on top of his game on that.
Yeah,
but like you mentioned, he looks a bit like a kid. Well, we do get introduced to some kids as part of this storyline, and this is where this Millville stuff kind of goes very Red Dawn-ish. Remember that film? I think it got a remake, didn't it? I think it was 1980s movie with Patrick Swayze, was it?
Swayze, yeah. It was an absolute stonker.
This is the emergency broadcast system. We are under attack by conventional forces of the Russian army. It is believed the lead waves were disguised as commercial charter flights. Communications have broken down with other parts of the country. Large areas of the Midwest may have been overrun.
And then got remade with Chris Hemsworth, I want to say.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
If you're seeing this broadcast, you are in a part of the country no longer controlled by the government of the United States.
Boys, I love you both, but I want you to do what I would do. Kill this piece of...
And this evokes that very much so, where in that it's, Soviets invading very covertly a small town in the USA as part of a larger piece. This is, kind of echoes the same themes. Cobra's invaded this small town, and there are this bunch of kids or rebels who are going to be the ones to fight them off and put, the monkey in the wrench and stuff and gum up the works for them. But these kids are a bit annoying, and their leader's called Spike, and once they start their kind of rampage, they get very trigger happy, don't they? There's scenes of them in the back of Jeeps with, guns and Molotov cocktails, and I'm wondering if that was a bit too much.
Well, yeah.
I'm just wondering how Mutt and Spirit kind of justify putting these guns in these likely teenagers' hands to help them fight this,
Well, they do talk about that in a sense, don't they? It is like a conversation between Mutt and Spirit, and kind of I'm sure, they're talking about combat, and you've got they're talking about that one guy who's got the 1,000-yard stare.
Oh, yeah. Raggedy Muff.
Yeah, and you got the other guys enjoying it too much. And they're kind of having that conversation of, I suppose in a way it was, Larry's probably done it to make a point about it,
Yeah, I think you're right there. Because then, like you say, they have that conversation. They say, look, these boys aren't boys anymore.
Yeah, and they won't be able to go back to it, yeah.
They've seen now the horror of warfare, and, they may have enjoyed it at the time, but, there's going to come a point where it's now psychologically scarred them more than likely.
PTSD.
And it's pretty brutal. There's a bit where they drop... I thought these guys were dead at first when I was reading it. They drop a safe full of junk, scrap iron, onto this bug, and it's brutal, that scene. The bug driver thinks he's got him trapped. He looks up, he's all shadowed out, and then this safe... I thought it fell right on the canopy where he's driving it. He literally just crushed a man to death. But then later you see them pulling out the Secto Vipers. Well, I don't know how many people are in a bug. Is it 2?
There's loads of people in a bug. I mean, there's only one usual driver, a Secto Viper, but you can have loads of people in that.
Yeah, actually, they have 4 of them tied up there. So maybe they didn't kill them, but the implication early on was that, okay, let's just crush a man to death with a safe. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff's really good, and they mention the steel mill, and it's all kind of got sort of 1950s or whatever vibe, 50s, 60s vibe to where small town America, and the man has come in and taken over, and it's very evocative stuff. Very captures the atmosphere really well.
What's interesting to me is when they try to take the next spot, which is like that big mill, and when they try and kind of take it over, everyone's like, what the f*** are you doing? Like, why are you bursting in here with guns? Like, everything's fine. And then the police turn up, and they're like, what the hell? Yeah. And the Joes turn up, and they're like, what the f*** is going on here? And it's like this thing of like, oh no, like Cobra have obviously found a way to
de-zombify.
Exactly, to de-zombify them and then get out so that it looks like Mutton, Junkyard and Spirit are crazy. And it works a treat because as soon as everyone's gone and Mutt and Spirit are taken into custody, they get a phone call and it's Brocker, and all of a sudden they go straight back to being zombified again. And Cobra Commander's standing up there in the rafters again, just kind of going, "Yep, that worked well."
Yeah, there's a good bit actually. I'm just trying to find it. I think it's in 102 where Law phones up Uncle Jeff.
Oh yeah, because he wants order to speak to Junkyard.
He wants order to speak to Junkyard, and this is where they get whoever it is, worker number 257. This is page 14 in issue 102. And he has to step into the booth. There's a Techno Viper there, and you see on the booth at the top panel on the next page, it's the Cobra Mood-matic machine. And the Techno Viper, he's got different buttons he can press. Joined a cult, old grudge. Can't really work out what the next one says. He can press different buttons to get the guy to answer a certain different thing. And he's pressed the old grudge button. And basically he's told Law to basically f*** off.
Yeah, what would that be? I suppose it's WHIN and then P, possibly? Or Whinge? It could be Whinge, couldn't it? Could
yes.
be GE.
Yeah, I'm going to Whinge. Yeah, we'll give it that. Whinge. Yeah. And the Televiper's gone, let's get nasty. Love it. Love it.
And then starts kissing him. No, kidding. Yeah, that's really cool.
Oh, you nasty boy.
You nasty boys.
So... yeah, I mean, that's really cool. And then you get Cobra Commander, I think, and then it's obviously back to 103 where, like you mentioned, Hawk's basically gone off. He's cuffed. He said to the guys, Law and Order, cuff Mutt and Spirit and take him away, and that's when they've done all the Brockers, like you mentioned. Then Cobra Commander gets a very last panel of this. Now Millville can serve as Cobra's manufacturing base, almost in the open, with no one the wiser. Now I ask you, could anyone but the original Cobra Commander come up with something so sweetly insidious? Brilliant.
I hope he's talking to himself there. I hope there's nobody. I hope even his Crimson Guard aren't listening
there's a couple
to
of
him.
CGs behind him, but I think they've already gone off for their tea break. So I think he is just talking to himself.
on.
Yeah, amazing. So that's the kind of Millville stuff, and I really enjoyed all that.
Yeah, it's cool. And you're right, it does have a Red Dawn vibe massively.
Yeah, really.
I'm surprised we didn't mention that in the previous episode when they start invading.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think it does come in because especially when they find the kids, they find those
it's the rebels,
the kids who want to rebel. Back. Yeah, the fight back, and they mention the steel mill and all that kind of stuff. But cool, good stuff. Let's move on to the second arc here. Let's move on to the October Guard one.
Cool. Yep. So they turn up in their massive. Was it the C5A Galaxy?
That's it.
I know that they're saying they're not sure what it is, aren't they? And one of those they kind of say it probably could be a C5A Galaxy, but then there's the red star that's on the back of the tail fin. So we know it's the October Guard, but they don't just yet.
I want to just jump in here because the reason for this mission is something that I guess happened off panel, because Hawk says to them the jugglers were just barely stopped from disbanding the G.I. Joe team by a presidential order. Now, the last time we saw the Jugglers was only a couple of issues back, and that it was a last page cliffhanger because the Jugglers said, "We're going to disband the G.I. Joes."
Yeah.
And now basically, that was it. Was that if anything else went wrong or something like that? But now it seems that they've been stopped by, a last-second presidential order, which happened off-panel. But there's, interesting that they've kind of just Jugglers, forget about them, because they actually do crop up in the next issue. But and then they've got this top secret mission. So sorry, go on. On.
That's pretty much what I was getting to. But and what I do like about this is the fact that on the way in Utah, on the way to the rendezvous point for this pickup, they're in the mobile command center, which is in mobile. It was actually moving at the time, and they're inside. They're sitting actually on the fold-down beds, the medic beds that are next to that kind of screen almost that you can see behind. Is it Hollingsworth and Hawk? And I like the fact that you've got those little details thrown in there as like you're in.
Is that accurate to the interior of the toy?
Kind of. The screen is the other orientated the other way, but you can kind of you could kind of maybe argue that they're sitting at the head of the bed against the back wall as opposed to the other way round. So it could be, you could say that you could make that kind of work in the toy, more or less. But yeah, it's really cool.
I've got in the comic here, I've got an advert for Acclaim presents Double Dragon The Revenge, a martial arts explosion, 9 larger-than-life missions, outrageous martial arts moves like the Cyclone Spin Kick, the arcade smash is now playing on NES.
Awesome. I used to love that game.
So I don't think I ever played Double Dragon 2. I was a massive fan of the first one.
Played both,
in the
they're
arcade, but I can't remember the second one. Anyway, so yeah, I'll tell you what else you're a big fan of. Desert Fox is in this.
Hells yeah.
Nobody beats G.I. Joe, Desert Fox.
But the Fox had better look out for the Cobra Stiletto.
Cobra Stiletto's giving Joe the chase, then blasting its way into outer space.
No skid mark though, which is interesting.
No skid mark.
So he's gonna wake up and be like, "Where the fuck's my Desert Fox gone?"
Right. Who's got this? They've left me with some crappy vehicle instead. What's crappy? I don't know.
Coastal Defender.
Yeah. This is where we get introduced to the two new members. One is Lieutenant Gorky. He is from the Black Sea Regiment of the Naval Infantry, and you've got Misha, who is, I think, slightly racist, and he is of the Spetsnaz.
Yes, I agree on both those things.
Yeah, because he later on, when they meet the Turcos, who are the natives, doesn't he say something like, "Your leader must be an educated man, a white man"?
Yeah, he does.
But anyway. Interesting here, they're on this aircraft. What was it again? I can't remember what it was.
It's not the Galaxy, I don't think, because they
do name it. Oh, here it is, an AN-24 Condor.
Ah, that's it, yeah.
And they mention here that because there's not just the four Joes. You've got Roadblock, Muskrat, Lady J, and Flint, and then you've got the 4 October Guard. But there's also some crew or cargo handlers and pilots, and all of those guys. It's nice that they mention them, that the Joes just aren't flying, or they haven't got Wild Bill or anything flying, because they say the cargo handlers parachuted out over Nicaragua because they didn't want to be liable to Sierra Gordo, and then the pilots actually both end up getting killed, which I thought was pretty brutal. And Larry didn't really need to write that in, but he did, and it's adding to the we're never going to say G.I. Joe's completely realistic, but it adds to the realism, I guess, because they're flying over Sierra Gordo, and here's Darklon with the Razorbacks, and basically, as soon as they're spotted, boom, 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 they are shot down.
And then they take a pretty hard landing onto the runway, taking out all their landing gear and coming to a halt.
Yeah.
And they spin it round, which is quite cool.
How did they do that? They had no wheels. All the wheels have been smashed off, and yet they managed to spin the plane round and then get it moving in the other direction, back down the runway.
Well, we're back into G.I. Joe territory again, aren't we? We've gone from getting people killed to actually doing a handbrake turn with no wheels.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to say they knocked some flaps up on one side and dropped them on the other, and then that made it tilt and swing around.
Done. I like to put most of G.I. Joe in the same camp as I put Star Wars episodes 4, 5 and 6. There are no errors.
Okay.
Everything is there for a purpose.
It's all on purpose and exactly right.
Exactly correct.
And then they all hop out of the plane as it blows up and zip off into the trees. Darklon notices them getting away, and then they kind of give chase, and then it's really all about this chase between the October Guard in the British Nationalist Party and the BNP, and the Joes in the Desert Fox, getting chased by basically everyone that Darklon has on his team.
I do like the Lady J, Lieutenant Gorky kind of flirtation.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Flint doesn't. Flint hates
because
it.
I like Flint, and he's a bit of a dick, but I like him, and he's getting knocked off massively. And you can tell he wants to, Lady J's his lady or whatever, no pun intended, I guess.
I like the kind of similarities between the two.
Yeah,
similar looks.
Even just looks, the same kind of cap and jackets, whatever. And they're almost like the same guy competing for the one lady. So that's pretty cool actually.
Gorky's almost like a younger, blonder,
a better,
kind of young, and Flint's like, he's not having this.
Yeah, great. I'm just flicking through these pages again. I mentioned it earlier. Great panels of Mark Bright just blowing stuff up.
Yeah,
I think there's a razor back there which just gets absolutely trounced. And
when they make that jump as well,
just on that bit, it's
really
amazing.
Good kablam. That's wicked. Even the text, even the kablam font is done really well and
you can tell Flint is here, like he's had enough of Gorky, and he just he's gone all macho man, Randy Savage, and and he just wants to pull out the big guns and prove that he's like the man of the hour, and he's ended up jump in this gap, Evel Knievel style.
He wants to pull out his Slim Jim, is what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously that continues on into the trees, and so they kind of get away, but Darklon is like, no, we're going to continue this. We're going to continue chasing them, despite being in Tucaro's, I think they're called, aren't they? The Tucaro's territory.
Yeah, what did I call them? Tucaros. I don't know. I have no idea how to pronounce it. We'll go Tucaro's.
But in any case, they end up kind of getting bombed to by some condors.
Yep.
Roadblock and Misha end up kind of becoming like the rear gunner kind of column, the two of them, and they're just basically holding them off with heavy fire. And as we kind of get through into the ravine and everything, they basically set up almost like a last man standing for those, well, 2 men standing, blockade with, and to try and keep them at bay so the other guys can get away safe. And then it turns out that after they get absolutely pummeled as well by Darklon's forces, that the Flint's looking through the binoculars to see if they've made it, kind of thing. And then you see Roadblock, who is now blinded, carrying Misha on his back, much like the fact he was blind carrying Cobra Commander in the movie as well.
We got a bargain. To play it straight, or there's no doubt I'll turn your eyeballs inside out. This way.
Yes, I think Larry's done that on purpose, obviously.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this is just balls to the wall action here, and this is where these native guys, the Tucaros or the Tucaros, however we like to call them, they have got a leader who is MIT educated, and because they mention Recondo, don't they? Because that's actually one of my favourite stories. Back in, I think it was issue 39 and 40, A Walk Through the Jungle, is where they go to rescue Dr. Burkhart. And Recondo's down there, and he stays down there, and his name effectively gets them safe passage, doesn't it?
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. And then, like you mentioned, they've now kind of escaped, and we're going to see more of those guys, obviously, in the next few issues, which will wrap up that Sierra Gordo stuff.
Yep.
Right. So the last one, I guess, is what's going on with Snake Eyes, etc. So where did that ended in 100, where the Baroness had shot, or maybe that didn't happen in 199, but the Baroness had shot Scarlet. She's in a coma. Snake Eyes is obviously weeping beneath his bandages, and then there's an unexpected visitor for Scarlet, and it turns out to be her so-called sister.
Yep.
Now, I did not see this one coming back in the day, and at this moment in time, she's very happily gloating that she's basically going to terminate Scarlet's life support, which seems a bit harsh.
They obviously didn't have a good relationship.
No. And even when, at the end, obviously spoilers, because we're going to talk about it anyway, when Scarlet comes out of the coma 2 issues later, her sister looks to be almost distraught that she was going to, terminate Scarlet's life support.
Well, she's being told by doctors, isn't she, that Scarlet's got no chance, basically. She gets a second opinion, and they say the same thing. It's only this doctor that thinks...
But why was she happy about it? She looked happy when she first appeared, and she was going to turn it off. I thought it was like an inheritance thing, or there was something to gain out of it. I don't know.
I think it was for effect.
Right. Okay. But has got one of my favourite lines, which is... this is where Scarlet's come out of the coma. Her sister is, I think her name's Siobhan, is it? I think. But she's going mental at the doctor. You told me she was a vegetable for life. You said that the chances of her waking up were 1,000,000 to 1, and if she did, she would be hopelessly brain damaged. Based on your learned opinion, I got a court order to terminate life support for my sister. My favourite line by the doctor. What can I say? These things happen. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple storyline, this particular run. It's just that Snake Eyes is distraught about not being able to get near or speak to her or hold her or whatever. Yep. He ends up kind of like pushing his sister out of the way, going to see her and holding her hand and all that kind of jazz.
Yep.
Storm Shadow can see that there's a problem with Snake Eyes and it needs addressing, so he takes it upon himself to do something about it.
We have to obviously talk about the last page of issue 102, which is where Snake Eyes goes in to see her, and he actually speaks.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, Scarlet. And he ripped his bandages off, and last we saw him, he'd had facial reconstruction, the last we saw his face, as it were. The Payne brothers had chucked some burning hot coals onto his face, but now we see that it potentially didn't do as much damage as we thought it did.
Couple of lines on there from the previous scarring. That's about it.
From the previous scarring. But thoughts on him speaking? I'm trying to find some letters from upcoming issues to see if fans wrote in and were not happy or Larry responded, but I'm struggling to find them at the moment. But
from conversations I've had with people in the past, they've always been like a bit bent out of shape that Snake Eyes was allowed to say something, was allowed to talk in the comic. You know, they always thought that was a bit kind of out of character, shall we say?
Right.
And yeah, but it, you know, I think it's quite powerful at the same time. I think, especially for what he's saying, I think there's. I have
no problem with it at all.
Cool.
I can't say that. I really, really want Snake Eyes to say something, but I think it, like you said, it makes the scene even more powerful, and it makes him a more powerful character as well. I think it's. Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, so Snake Eyes, after that point, he's in a bad way, and this is where we get the cover to 103, which is where Storm Shadow going in his urban camo, busting through a plate glass window, and he has gone to see those scumbags, the jugglers.
And they never seem juggling anything.
No, exactly. They're very bad at it, I think. And it's a very elaborate plan he's got, but it's all because he tried to get an appointment and he couldn't. Basically, they were full up. The receptionist was like, no, they're busy until next Tuesday. So this was the only way he had to get to see him, is busting in, taking loads of people's weapons. They actually open up a can of whoop on him, or try to, and he dodges all the guns, takes the guns away, and he wants to give his buddy Snake Eyes the most unbelievable mission.
It's unbelievable, Jeff.
that they possibly can to stop saying basically. To basically put him in a mindset where he stops thinking about his lady love Scarlet and he just focuses on something else to get him out of his funk.
I love that scene where Storm Shadow jumps on the table and looks like a little jigging goblin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know the one you mean. I see it now.
You know what I'm saying? He's got kicking. He's like almost like doing that Russian dance, isn't he?
He's throwing some papers down.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And then next page, he's kicking papers off the table in one of them.
I know, what an unbelievable finish that is.
It's unbelievable, Jeff!
He is well mad. Maybe that's a Cyclone Spin Click from Double Dragon 2.
It looks like a scene from Roy the Rovers, that panel.
Yeah. Unbelievable goal right there.
It's unbelievable, Jeff!
So then we get more interconnected G.I. Joe comics bullshit, where Snake Eyes is basically going to try and rescue George Strawhacker, or see if George Strawhacker is still alive in Barovia. He's been there for many years, and George Strawhacker was the guy that was going to marry Snake Eye's sister.
Yeah, that's some Marvel Comics bullshit there.
Yeah, love it.
But it does lead to a really cool scene where they're in the stealth above Eastern Europe, and you see, like, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes in the back. Like, Snake Eyes ready to basically do a jump out into Eastern Europe. Storm Shadow gives him the Arashikage mindset, to basically turning him to an unstoppable, lethal machine.
Yes.
And that's when you see Snake Eyes kind of jump out with his gear and everything, and you see him like getting further and further away. And the bottom three panels, and you've got Stalker and Storm Shadow talking to each other, saying, "You've really done it now, Stormy. I sure hope you know what you're doing. It's a case of tough love. Somebody had to act, and I did it." So yeah, it was really cool. And then Scarlet wakes up.
Yeah, as we've previously mentioned. But I am really excited to get to these next 3 issues next week, because this story is ramping up big time, and the October Guard stuff as well. So I'm expecting to give these, or this arc overall, quite a high score. Like I said, we're going to mark it next week. I am going to quickly fast forward to issue 109 for the Postbox to the Pit letters, because there is a letter that I want to read out which references this particular issue.
Go for it.
So this is a letter from Ryan Dumperth from 6116 Neighbour Drive, Fort Wayne, is that Indiana? Indiana?
Yes.
46835, so feel free to write to Ryan if you want to.
We'll just go straight round his house now.
We'll go straight around his house because I've given his address out. But he must have put in his letter, OK to print, or whatever they request. But anyway, he says, it's a bit long-winded, so bear with me. Is the Arashikage mindset, which Storm Shadow speaks of on page 27, panel 5, one in the same with the 10th letter, the Void, which controls Zen swordsmanship, mentioned in issue 66, page 8, panel 10. My reason for asking this is based on these two statements Storm Shadow made. The first is from issue 66. It is the clearing of the mind and soul that must be undertaken before battle. The second is from issue 103. You will need the power of the Arashikage mindset, the ninja conditioning trance that clears the mind of all distracting personal thoughts and allows you to become a lethal machine. And then Larry Hama's answer is no, two different things. And I also want to read this letter out.
Oh, God,
and
Larry.
I want people to write to this guy or go around his house. It is Vijay Monan and Tom Guido Flory at 4260 Conestoga Terrace, Copley, Ohio 44321. So
I'm going to be in Ohio soon, so yeah, I'll do it.
I'll go and knock these guys up, so to speak. Well, no, knock them out, because they say, "Dear GI Jokers," brace yourself.
Oh, that's a bad start.
We are writing to you about your bad stories and your pathetically unrealistic action. What's going on here? Your stinking stories are worse than they have ever been. Such as recent issue 103, when 2 men destroy 3 very large and dangerous tanks and survive with only minor injuries. Do you morons have Alzheimer's or something? How can you simply forget about things such as Serpentor and the people trapped in the ship on Cobra Island? As we said before, the action is unrealistic. Now, Larry, tell me how someone can dodge a missile such as Storm Shadow did in issue 97. And please tell us how someone goes about catching an arrow that has been shot out of the rear of a van that must be moving at approximately 55 miles per hour. And then brackets SFX, which was issue 85.
Yeah,
These
my
comics
favourite.
These comics are starting to look like the TV show, which is nothing to brag about. Also, please tell us what the October Guard has to do with the Joes. Why did you have to revive Scarlet? Now tell me this, La. He's called him La. How can someone survive a gunshot in the head at point-blank range? We hope you print our letter to see other readers' reactions. Now then, let's have the reply from Larry Hama. Whether you like the stories is wholly a matter of subjective taste. I don't mind being upbraided for actual inaccuracies, but the 3 main points you object to open a discussion. I personally know 3 people who have survived gunshot wounds to the head. There are several well-known martial arts masters who perform the arrow-catching trick before large audiences. I saw it done in Madison Square Garden 20 years ago. There was a Japanese army sergeant named Anondo who survived alone in the Philippine Islands for 30 years after World War II. He taught himself to dodge rifle bullets by only making his forays for food when the sun was low enough to reflect off the copper jackets. If a bullet seemed to be moving laterally, he knew he was safe, but as soon as a bullet appeared to be motionless in the air, he knew it was coming right at him. What is the difference in relative velocities between handheld launched missiles and a high-power rifle bullet? If you jump on my case, better have done your homework.
Nice.
Smackdown.
Drops the mic and then catches it before it hits the ground because he's a ninja.
There you go. So that's some letters from an upcoming issue, and some of them relating to this one we just read. But yeah, good stuff. We will be reading and discussing 104 to 106 next pod, and I am looking forward to it. So this means there's only one thing to go to next, and that is Chris Talks Toys.
Chris talks about toys, ho ho. Chris talks about G.I. Joe. He talks about all the things from the comic book and the animated show. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys.
And I am eating this week. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
I am looking at the Cobra F.A.N.G. 2 this week.
Cobra makes my blood boil. They're fighting back with that new Cobra F.A.N.G.
Cobra!
Cobra F.A.N.G.'s a jet flying fast and low, and a fighting cops are out hunting for Joe. There's Destro's Razorback, razor sharp and hog wild. When Destro's Razorback, it's Joe in sight. It rises up and starts to fight. But nobody beats G.I. Joe, a real American hero.
Now look for G.I. Joe face camouflage, free in specially marked packages.
Yo, Joe!
I thought it popped up a couple of them popped up in the last 3 issues we just looked at. So
yep.
I figured let's get this one out of the way. Now this is a quirky old thing. I mean, it's it's the second version of what is effectively the most unprotected and dangerous contraption Cobra have probably ever made, and that's the Cobra F.A.N.G., which is a kind of like an open cockpit, one-man gyrocopter type helicopter deal. And what the F.A.N.G. 2 does is it basically just kind of uses that Osprey technology, the twin prop kind of adjustable engine type maneuvers, V-STOL, vertical short takeoff and landing, or this is a vertical takeoff and landing, I imagine. Now, this particular beauty, I thought this was, when I first saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I love this. As a kid, I thought this was wicked. It had such a cool little feature where you could flip those engines with a little wheel in the middle of the wings, so it would like tip up so you could kind of take off, and they would face forward so you could fly. Really, really cool. There's a machine gun kind of attached to the nose, which you can kind of move around as well, left, right, up and down a little bit. And obviously had 6 red missiles that kind of went on the edges of the lower kind of landing wing tips, the either side of where the open cockpit is, and right above the head on the wings where the pilot's exposed head was. Again, dangerous as all heck. Didn't come with a figure. It was just, boxed alone. It was brought out in 1989 in the US and 1991 in the UK. Very similar in terms of box design. The only difference is really being that the UK version had the Cupra logo on it to kind of cover the European market. There was also this really cool effect in the background where it was going from like a dark red colour right at the top and fading into black a little bit early on. So there's this kind of like this phase of red in the top, which doesn't appear on the US box. So which basically makes ours better. In any case, I was a massive fan of the toy. I thought it was really cool, and again, like, just bonkers. Yes, it's unsafe. Yes, it's ridiculous, but that's G.I. Joe and especially Cobra. And I just thought it was a really cool upgrade to the F.A.N.G.1, made even cooler, and I'll send another picture of this again because it's worth it, with the catalogue image that shows them chasing the Mud Fighter through the ravine, which I sent, which we posted for the Mud Fighter that we talked about in one of the last episodes. So yeah, this is an absolute fave of mine as a kid because I just thought it was really cool looking. But yes, I'm fully aware of the impracticalities of the F.A.N.G. and F.A.N.G. 2, and also kind of, I think, led in an odd way into the design of the Black Dragon VTOL, which was the 30th anniversary, but also kind of Renegades because it was in the Renegades cartoon. And that's basically, finally they've put like a covering over it, so you've got like a cockpit that closes now. And again, you've got that amazing thing with the engines, the kind of Osprey style chopper blade either side kind of wing tip things. They're just amazing. Yeah, and I kind of feel that that's taken a lot of cues from the F.A.N.G. 2. The Black Dragon, and fight me if you think I'm wrong.
Yeah, good stuff. Who would pilot those out of choice?
Well, on the card art, you had Heat Vipers kind of sitting in there, but I think it was pretty much anybody. I've seen, again, like for the time, anybody's been in there. I mean, you look at the cartoon, you look at the Deke cartoon they were in, then you've got everything from, all sorts of different troopers piloting them. I would probably suggest like a Gyro Viper or someone like that who flies the Mambas, or someone along those lines,
I'll tell you who, get that Ice Viper in there, because he's also a Snow Serpent, an Eel, he's a Techno Viper, he might as well be everything, he's the best.
Might as well be a F.A.N.G. 2 Viper.
Yeah, he's the best.
Another thing we should mention that we didn't talk about when we discussed it a couple of episodes ago. When Mutt and Spirit take the HISS-2 tank, you expect to see a Track Viper inside, don't you? Because they're the ones that drive the HISS-2. In actual fact, you get this weirdly odd coloured... It's hard to really say what it is, but to me it looks very much like a Gyro Viper in design, where you've got the almost like detailing down the arms and the side of the legs, and also the straps that Spirit grabs and then yanks his head into the side of the canopy. Like, you can definitely see are the same straps that appear on a Gyro Viper's costume. The helmet is like almost like a mixture of a Gyro Viper's helmet and a Viper's helmet. So you've got this weird, like, designed character where I get the feeling it was Mark Bright doing the art at the time, I believe. He probably had reference at hand of... The only reference he probably had at hand was like a Gyro Viper and maybe a Viper, and maybe did some sort of like, I don't know, concoction of the two to create this character that doesn't really exist.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that as a correction. Something we didn't mention last time. Yeah. And shout out to Dave Newman, who did bring that up to me and is an avid listener of the show and enjoys it with his own beverage. And I think he also has chips and curry sauce at the time.
He's a winner. The man is a winner. Good stuff, as always. I always look forward to that segment because I am educated every time.
Good.
Right now, though, we will confuse some people with British colloquialism. I will confuse myself by not being able to say British colloquialisms, a.k.a. over-egging the pudding.
We got a pudding. We're gonna egg it. We got a pudding. We're gonna over-egg it. We got a pudding. We got no criticisms. That means it's time for some British colloquialisms.
What have you got for us this week, fine sir?
This week, I have been mostly using bent as a 9-bob note.
You what, governor?
Exactly. Oity-toity. Yes, I've been like forcefully using these kind of terms in the week now that I know that they have to happen naturally.
And your life is better for it?
Kind of. Yeah, this was in talking about... In fact, I think my wife completely missed this one. It was just myself and my wife were watching a TV show.
Unfortunately, I don't know your wife. Is she American or is she English?
She's American. She's a Midwestern girl.
Gotcha. Hi, Kate. How you doing?
She says hi. She's not here. She's at work.
She doesn't listen.
She does actually. She's just started listening, and her favourite parts are the ridiculous theme tunes that come up as well.
Yes, of course.
In any case, yeah. So we were watching. It was some sort of like true crime type deal, and one of the guys on the show I described as bent as a 9-bob note. Yeah. Which I don't even think it landed. I don't even think she even heard me say. I think she gets to the point now where she just ignores me saying things now. Yep. And I'm not sure if she knows what that means, but effectively there is no such thing as a 9-bob note, which would be £9 note in our money, and basically just means extremely dishonest or corrupt.
Yeah. So he's a wrong'un.
Yeah. Effectively, a 9-bob note would be counterfeit. So there you go.
Yeah. Use it next week. All the listeners, try and use that in your day-to-day lives at least once. Bent as a 9-bob note. My one is, and that's kind of, you could imagine, a Cockney saying that. Mine is also derived from Cockney rhyming slang. Not that one was Cockney rhyming slang, but from the same area originated. And my mate at work, he had made his own lunch, and he tried to make like a quiche or something, or a tart or something, and it looked absolutely horrible. And I said, what have you got there? And he said, it says quiche, but it's a load of pony.
Pony and trap?
Yeah, pony. So it's a load of pony, meaning the shortened version of it's pony and trap, which is Cockney rhyming slang for crap.
Brilliant.
So you can either use it in two ways. You can either say pony, as in crap, or you can say pony and trap. But there you go.
Fantastic.
We'll have more of those jewels and gems for our loyal listeners next week. But right now...
Chief asked Chris a question. Chief asked Chris a question. What'll he say? What'll he do when Chief asks Chris a question?
So I'm not sure if you're I've got a backup question if you're not a fan.
Okay.
But I'm quite tempted to go and see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the new Quentin Tarantino movie with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I've heard some good things.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it at the time because I saw read an article that said this is Tarantino's penultimate movie. He's only going to make one more, and that'll be it.
Right.
And he's done. So he's going to stop at 10. So, of his preceding 8 movies, what do you think is your favourite? And if you're a fan of Tarantino, I don't know if you are, his 8 previous movies, I think, in chronological order. I know
what they are. Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Basterds, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill Volume 1, The Hateful Eight, Django Unchained, Jackie Brown, Death Proof, and what's the other one? From Dusk Till Dawn, True Romance, Kill Bill Volume 2, Four Rooms, Natural Born Killers, Kill Bill Volume 3, Grindhouse, Planet Terror.
So you're not really a fan?
No, but they're like the ones that he's done don't incorporate those. But
I think he's directed.
I know
8.
which ones he's directed.
He's directed 9, including this new one. But anyway, okay. I think I've only ever seen. I've seen them all, but I think I've only ever seen each Tarantino directed movie once.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say is your?
It's like I wouldn't say I'm a fan of his necessarily.
Okay.
I'm not like against him or anything like that. I quite like some of the movies that he's done in the past. I'm always interested if I hear that Tarantino's doing a film. I'm always like, oh, cool. I'll probably check it out at some point. I don't know if I'll rush to the cinema to watch it or anything. But I mean, in the past, I remember kind of being quite not. I must have been about 12 or 13 when kind of like Reservoir Dogs was out. But I remember that being like really freaking amazing. I probably saw that a bit later. I was probably about 14 or 15 when I saw it.
Right.
But because I remember I think I saw Pulp Fiction first. I think that was the first Tarantino movie I saw.
That was 94, I think.
Pulp Fiction. And then everything kind of before that he'd done, I think it was only Reservoir Dogs actually. But anything he'd been involved in before that, I was probably like I hadn't bothered seeing. And Reservoir Dogs, kind of seeing that, I was just like, wow, this is crazy. So it's probably either between Reservoir Dogs but then again, like Kill Bill. I really enjoyed Kill Bill as well, both both volumes, as it were. That's a tough one. I'm going to go with Reservoir Dogs.
Okay, all right, there you go. You answered the question, so that was your job for that segment. So well done. Pat yourself on the back. Get yourself a kombucha. No, don't, please don't.
Induce vomiting.
Yeah. Right, that's it. We've done it. We got to the end. It was a good episode, I think. High energy. I think everyone will enjoy this one this week, as they always do. Next week, if you do want to do your homework, we will be discussing 104, 105, 106, which wraps up these storylines, and we'll be giving them Yo-Joes out of 10. You can find us in all the usual places. TalkingJoeComics@gmail.com if you want to pop us a line. Talking Joe Comics on Instagram, Talking Joe, G.I. Joe Podcast on Facebook, and Talking_Joe on the Twitter. Where can the phone folks find you if they want to get hold?
The phone fights can find me.
Yeah, all of them as well.
You can find me at Diagnostic80 on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find me. You can find the Full Force podcast at the Full Force on Twitter, Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, pretty much everywhere.
Oh man, I tell you what, before we just close out quickly, you posted up a link to the guy who's making the 28mm wargaming figures in Action Force. Holy moly, I do a bit of gaming myself, but that was like, I just want someone to now produce these so I can buy them and play a game with them.
Great, aren't they?
Yeah,
really
fantastic.
Cool.
I forget who the guy was, but check out the Full Force podcast Twitter account, and there'll be links there to go and check it out, because if you're into gaming and Action Force, whatever, it's definitely worth having a look. And with all that said and done, we will catch you down the road.
Bye.